The first orphan record burned under Alpha King Veylan Crossmere's seal, before Philippa Rowanell could finish writing the birth name of the child sleeping 3 cradles from the hearth. The parchment curled inward first, as if trying to protect itself. Ink blackened. Family marks blurred. A wolf-line tracing that had taken Philippa 2 winter nights to confirm vanished into orange light, while noble witnesses stood beneath the rafters of Hollowden Orphan House and called the fire merciful. Merciful meant clean. Clean meant no old grief attached to a child's new house. To them, the records were inconvenient pages that made adoption politics slow. To Philippa, they were proof that a child had arrived in the world, belonging to someone before power decided where that belonging was useful. "Stop the burning," she said. No one stopped. Orphan Warden Selric Bale held the placement packet against his chest. Mistress Rowanell has confused care with possession. Noble foster houses are waiting. The records she keeps obstruct lawful transfer, delay inheritance pledges, and burden children with bloodlines no family has come to claim. Philippa looked at the cradle nearest the hearth. The child inside slept with one fist, pressed to a moonwood tag, tied by blue cord. Every cradle in Hollowden carried one. Each tag held 3 lawful things only: birth initials, body mark, and kin search status. It could not name a parent the record had not entered. It could not accuse a house. It could only preserve what had been witnessed at the rail before placement politics made a child convenient. "They are not burdens," Philippa said. "They are identities." Veylan Crossmere stood between the hearth and the long adoption table, broad-shouldered beneath his black wolf mantle, his crown ring dull in the smoke. He had come to Hollowden with royal guards and the tired severity of a king who had heard too many noble petitions. Years ago, after the border raids left cradles full and family lines broken, he had stood beside Philippa in this hall and promised that no child would vanish between offices under his reign. Tonight, he said, "The warden's packet says your private records duplicate lawful orphan ledgers and interfere with clean placement. Private records." The words entered the room dressed as order. They made her life's work sound like hoarding. The ledger's record where a child is sent. Mine record who the child was before being sent. Selric's voice softened. "And that is precisely the harm. Children must not be kept chained to dead houses, failed mothers, disgraced fathers, or kin who never return. A child is not chained by a name. A child may be rejected by one," he answered. The nobles approved the shape of that mercy, because it made their waiting houses feel generous. Veylan's gaze moved over the tied parchment stacks. Birth names, den marks, last known kin, fever scars, lullabies remembered by surviving nurses, paw signs too small for court heraldry, and too important for erasure. Then Selric opened the adoption transfer sheet. 5 placements delayed this month because Mistress Rowanell insisted on kinship searches after noble approval. 3 houses withdrew, rather than be accused of taking a child with hidden claims. Philippa lifted the unfinished page. "A kinship search is not accusation." Veylan looked at her then. Not coldly. Worse. Wearily. As if her care had become one more fire he had to contain. Speak as orphan recorder. Not as a woman afraid to let them go. The humiliation was quiet enough to be polite. That made it cut deeper. She had let children go. She had packed wool socks into noble trunks, taught frightened pups the names of new halls, kissed foreheads she would never see again, and kept backup origin slips beneath floorboards, because adoption did not have to mean erasure. She lowered her eyes to the unfinished page, not in surrender, but to keep rage from being used against the children. "As orphan recorder," she said, "I ask that every child's birth, name, family mark, and last known kinship line be copied into royal custody before any private record is destroyed." Selric answered at once. "Royal custody already holds placement ledgers. A placement ledger could protect a house from dispute." An origin record protected a child from being made convenient. Placement is not origin. Veylan's jaw tightened. The order stands. Burn the obstructive records. Preserve placement ledgers. The fire took the first stack. Burning a page did not burn the child's mark from the rail. If the tag had been witnessed before placement. Then the second stack fell into flame. Philippa stood still, while 10 years of origin notes became smoke. Around her, the children began waking, not because the room was loud, but because loss has its own scent in a wolf house. A boy with one white ear whispered for his old nurse. A girl whose mark page had just burned pressed her cradle tag to her mouth. Philippa wanted to run to them. She did not. If she moved, Selric would call it disruption. If she wept, the nobles would call it proof that women who loved children could not manage records. Veylan watched the last page burn. He did not apologize. He did not look victorious. That almost made it harder. The ashes had barely settled when the first Moon Cradle Tag split along its old witness groove. It did not speak. It did not glow with judgment. Heat darkened the moonwood beneath the blue cord, and 3 pale registry marks surfaced where old oil and ash had filled the cut. The nearest nurse bent over it. L.V. Silver Fern Mark. Hollow Creek kin line. Not closed. Selric stepped forward. Old cradle notation. Incomplete. Not admissible against a placement packet. No one has placed blame, Philippa said. He'd opened a second witness groove on the next cradle. BT left. Shoulder crescent. Winter Roadkin search. Unresolved. The placement ledger beside Selric's packet listed both children as clean transfer eligible, with kin search status entered as closed. Closed was the word that made a child transferable. Veylan looked from the tags to the burned ash. The burned records had not cleared Philippa. They had not accused Selric. They had only proved the placement packet had carried less than Holodin's own witness system. Philippa met the king's eyes across the smoke. You made origin optional with one signature. The next record would have to show who entered the kinship lines as closed and why the placement packet carried closure the cradle tags did not. The opened cradle tags did not prove Selric Bale had falsified a placement. They only showed Holodin's witness marks, and the royal ledger disagreed on whether 2 kinship searches were closed. Veylan Crossmere ordered the cradles left untouched. That did not restore Philippa Rowanell's records. It did not return one burned page from the hearth ash. It only stopped the nurses from lifting the children away before the witness marks could be entered under royal sight. The 2 children sat awake beneath thin wool blankets, frightened by the smoke, the nobles, and the sudden attention that had made their small wooden tags more important than their cold hands. Philippa wanted to kneel beside them. She did not. If she comforted them before the record was read, Selric would call it influence. Moon Cradle Tag Registry, Veylan said. Selric Bale inclined his head. The registry is an internal Holodin tool, Your Majesty. Useful for nursery order, not superior to royal placement ledgers. Internal did not mean informal when the rule itself named the tag. Read the law before the opinion. The old den nurse, Mara Voss, brought the registry chest from the wall cupboard. Its lock was plain iron, not court silver. Philippa kept her face still when Mara glanced at her. The registry had been copied every winter by nurses, not nobles, because nurses knew which child had fever scars, which infant carried a birth bite, which pup woke howling at river smoke. The clerk opened the first page. Holodin Foundling Rule, 3rd Revision. Each Moon Cradle Tag shall be carved at intake or first verified witness. It shall hold birth initials where known, body mark or family mark where observed, and kin search status until lawful placement. Tag registry to remain with orphan house. Placement office may copy relevant status into transfer ledger. May, Philippa said quietly. Veylan looked at her. As origin witness, she added. May copy relevant status is how kin search marks become optional. A child's origin could disappear inside the word may. Entered as witness observation, he said. Not restored. Not granted authority. Only allowed to speak because the opened grooves had made silence impractical. Selric's hands tightened on the placement packet. Relevant status means status affecting legal transfer. If a search is stale, impossible, or unsupported, placement may proceed. Who decides stale? Veylan asked. The closure log was brought next. LV appeared first. The tag registry line read, LV silver fern mark behind right knee. Hollow Creek kin line opened after river raid intake. Search letter sent to Hollow Creek Infirmary. No closure witness returned. Kin search status. Not closed. The placement ledger beside it read, Leora Ven. Clean transfer eligible. Kin closed. Assigned pending to House Arlenmere for spring adoption. A nobleman near the adoption table straightened. House Arlenmere's steward lowered his eyes to the floor. Philippa did not look at him. The record was enough. Closure log, Veylan said. The clerk turned a separate page. LV Hollow Creek search. Closure entered. No kin appearing by third moon. Status converted to closed for placement efficiency. Entry hand. Placement office copyist. Approval mark. Orphan warden. No kin appearing was not the same as no kin recorded. Selric answered before the room could shape the words around him. No kin appearing is a lawful basis to close when the house cannot hold children indefinitely. Mara Voss lifted her chin. No closure witness returned. Selric's gaze sharpened. Nurse Voss is not a placement officer. No, Philippa said. She is the person the law trusted to register the tag. Veylan's jaw worked once. Second child. BT. Was read from the tag registry. BT. Left. Shoulder crescent. Winter road intake. Kin search unresolved after road closure. Possible grandfather line unconfirmed. No placement until road record returned. The placement ledger read, Bramwell Teth. Clean transfer eligible. Kin closed. Assigned pending to House Calvin Rook for Northern Foster Service. Foster service? Philippa asked. Selric turned toward her. Noble service trains. Discipline and loyalty. For an unresolved child? As origin witness, Veylan said. Not gently. She swallowed the rest of the accusation. An unresolved kin search means the child's origin has not been legally exhausted. It does not forbid care. It forbids clean transfer. The clerk entered it. Closure log, Veylan ordered. The page was thinner, newer. BT Winter Road Search. Closure entered due to road loss. No reachable kin. Placement recommended before age transfer penalty. Entry hand. Placement office copyist. Approval mark. Warden seal. Age transfer penalty? Veylan asked. Selric answered. Older children are harder to place. Noble houses accept them when the record is clean. The penalty did not measure the child's origin. It measured how much harder he became to sell as clean mercy. Philippa opened the small pouch at her belt. Duplicate origin comparison slips. Selric moved at once. Those are precisely the unauthorized private papers ordered burned. They are not a separate claim, and they do not outrank the tag registry, she said. They are copies for comparison against the registry. If the court refuses them, the tag registry still stands. Veylan held out his hand for the pouch. Philippa did not give it to him directly. She placed it on the table, where the clerk could untie it under witness. The comparison slips matched the tag registry, not the placement ledger. No living kin proved, no theft proved, only a status that had changed between witness system and transfer packet. The slips did not save the burned archive. They only proved Philippa had copied what Hollowden's own witness marks still carried. Royal summary, Veylan said. Selric's placement packet was open to the page the king had signed. It listed 5 delayed placements: origin records obstructive, kin searches stale or closed, private notes duplicative, noble houses awaiting clean transfer. It did not attach the tag registry. It did not attach the closure log. It did not say the cradle tags disagreed. Veylan looked at the burned hearth. The tag registry had not cleared Philippa. It had not convicted Selric. It had only shown that 2 children's kin search status had been converted from open or unresolved to closed before transfer, and that the king had received a summary, not the witness route. Then Mara Voss turned the registry page and stopped. A 3rd line had no cradle beside it, removed for placement before tag inspection. The next record would have to show which child left Holliden before tag inspection, who signed the transfer, and whether the Moonwood mark was ever copied into the placement ledger. The missing cradle did not prove Holliden had sold a child. It only showed 1 placement had left the orphan house before the Moonwood mark was compared to the ledger. The empty cradle stood between 2 sleeping children, like a question no adult wished to answer. A blue cord hung from its rail, frayed where a Moon Cradle tag should have rested. Philippa Rowanell saw the rail mark first, because she had counted those rails every night. Tags did not leave the rail until origin status, body mark, and placement ledger had been compared under witness. "Read the 3rd line," Veylan Crossmere said. Mara Voss held the registry with both hands. E.M. River. Wolf notch at left wrist. Kin search status. Pending mark inspection. Intake after Southern Road sweep. Placement hold until tag comparison. Selric Bale released a quiet breath. A pending inspection can be overtaken by urgent placement need. Philippa kept her voice level. Not clean transfer. Veylan looked at her. As origin witness, she added, a pending mark does not stop care. It stops a house from receiving the child, as if nothing remains to be checked. Entered? The clerk said. Not restored. Not returned to her room of records. Only permitted near the table, because the empty cradle had made the table incomplete. Transfer sheet, Veylan ordered. Selric passed over a page from the placement packet, clean, folded twice, and bordered with a narrow silver stripe used for noble foster priority. The clerk read carefully. Child registered for transfer as Elian Meir, age 4 winters, clean placement eligible, kin status closed, assigned to House Valdrin for household fostering. Transfer executed before dawn yesterday. Escort received by Valdrin's steward. Placement office copyist. Rena Pell. Warden approval mark present. Before dawn was not proof of wrongdoing. It was proof the child left before the room woke to compare him. Selric answered with practiced calm. House Valdrin had a traveling escort, already leaving the valley. Delaying would have cost the child a good placement. A good placement is not the same as a lawful origin closure. Veylan turned to the clerk. Tag inspection completed? The clerk compared the registry, placement ledger, and transfer sheet. Registry says pending mark inspection. Placement ledger says kin closed. Transfer sheet says clean. No Moonwood tag inspection attached. Was the Moonwood mark copied into the placement ledger? No full tag copy attached. Body mark entered as River Wolf Notch. Source listed as intake observation. Myra Voss shook her head once. Intake observation is first look. Tag inspection is witness confirmation. Selric's mouth tightened. The law permits intake observation when a child must be placed before full registry review. Philippa turned slightly toward him. Which law? Selric lifted the placement packet. Emergency placement provision. Children of tender age may be moved to approved houses before administrative completion if delay threatens welfare. Read the welfare cause, Veylan said. The clerk lowered his eyes. Cause entered. Overcrowding, winter ration pressure, noble house readiness, age retention risk. Overcrowding? Philippa said. There were 2 empty beds in the fever room. Selric answered, Fever beds are not adoption cradles. Noble house readiness is not child danger. As origin witness, Veylan said. Philippa swallowed. As origin witness, None of those causes proves the child's welfare required transfer before tag inspection. The clerk entered it. Warden approval mark, Veylan said. Does it approve this child's full origin route or the batch transfer? The clerk bent over the mark. Batch approval, 5 children for clean placement review. Individual transfer attached beneath batch line. Selric sees that. Exactly. Batch approval is standard. It does not mean I personally inspected every cradle tag. Standard was the word offices used when no one wanted to name the child inside the batch. Veylan's eyes moved from Selric to the page. Then the approval mark cannot be used to prove the tag was checked. Silence tightened around the hearth. The king had not apologized. He had not restored Philippa. But for the first time, the packet had lost the privilege of sounding complete. Royal summary route, he ordered. The clerk opened the signed page Veylan had received before the burning. Summary states, 5 delayed placements cleared. Origin records duplicative or obstructive. Kin searches stale or closed. Noble houses ready. Transfer delay harmful to child welfare. No individual tag inspection route attached. No pending registry line attached. No empty cradle note attached. A clean summary could hide a dirty absence without ever writing a false sentence. Philippa looked at the missing tag cord. A summary can make an absence look like mercy if no one asks what was absent first. Selric's tone remained controlled. Your Majesty, the orphan house cannot become a shrine to unfinished searches. Children need roofs, food, rank, and training. Noble houses give them lawful futures. A future, built by closing an unfinished origin, may belong more to the house than to the child, Philippa said. This time Veylan did not correct her. House Valdrin's steward stood near the back. My Lord King, House Valdrin received the child lawfully by packet. We were told the record was clean. That was not confession. It was also not innocence proven. It was another route. Waiting list, Veylan said. House Valdrin's waiting request preferred 1 young male ward with no active kin claim and no named wolf line dispute. The request predated Ellie and Mir's transfer by 4 days. Philippa did not touch the page. Preferred is not proof of wrongdoing. A noble request did not steal a child by itself. It only explained why clean status had value. No, Veylan said. But it is pressure. The missing cradle had not proved a child stolen. It had not proved House Valdrin guilty. It had not proved Selric falsified a record. It had only shown that E.M. left Hollowden before tag inspection, that the Moonwood mark was never copied into the placement ledger, that the warden approval was batch rather than individual origin review, and that Veylan's summary carried clean placement claims without the transfer route that made them clean. Then Mara Voss knelt beside the empty cradle and lifted the frayed blue cord. A small half-moon sliver of moonwood was still tied inside the knot, broken from the missing tag. When Mara turned the sliver toward the fire, the old witness groove showed a pale cross mark. Not initials, a sibling cross-reference mark. The next record would have to show which sibling file matched Ellie and Mir's broken tag mark and why no sibling hold appeared on his transfer sheet. The sibling cross-reference did not prove Ellie and Mir had been stolen. It only showed his transfer sheet had carried no hold for a mark the Moonwood tag still preserved. The small broken sliver lay on black cloth between the placement ledger and the empty cradle cord. Philippa Rowanell kept her hands folded because every instinct in her wanted to reach for it. The mark was not a voice. It did not name the child left behind. It was only a pale groove cut through old Moonwood oil, shaped like 2 crossing crescents, the sign Hollowden used when one child's origin could not be completed without another file. Veylan Crossmere looked at the sliver, then at the registry chest. Sibling Cross-Reference Index. Selric Bale inclined his head. The mark may indicate intake uncertainty. Sibling notes often remain advisory until confirmation. Read the rule, Veylan said. Mara Voss opened the thin red volume kept behind the registry. Hollowden sibling hold rule. Where 2 cradle tags bear matching cross-reference marks, neither child may be transferred as clean placement until both body marks, intake witnesses, and origin lines are inspected together. Emergency care may proceed, but clean transfer must carry sibling hold. Philippa let the words stand before adding her own. Care can move a child. Clean status cannot. Veylan's gaze came to her. As origin witness, she said. Entered. Still not restored. Still not allowed to take the sliver herself. But the law had said what her burned records no longer could. Which file matches the mark? Veylan asked. The clerk searched the sibling index. Pages whispered under his fingers. Children shifted in their cradles, wide-eyed beneath nurse hands that kept them from hearing too much and protected them from not being heard at all. Matching file. A.R., the clerk said. Female child. Ash-brown hair, right ankle double nick, intake with E.M. after Southern Road sweep. Sibling status, unconfirmed but held. Cradle assignment. Fever room west alcove. Philippa closed her eyes for half a breath. The child was still under this roof, not saved by that fact, not reunited, only not yet sent beyond the first door. Veylan spoke before anyone moved. No child is to be brought out for display. That order mattered more than tenderness would have. It kept A.R. a child instead of a spectacle. Was the sibling hold on Elian's transfer sheet? He asked. No, the clerk said. Transfer sheet states clean placement eligible. Kin closed. No active sibling claim. Selrick answered with the same calm that had survived 3 ledgers. Unconfirmed sibling status is not always active claim. If inspection remained incomplete, the placement office may proceed under emergency provision. Mara's voice sharpened. Not as clean transfer. The clerk checked the rule again. Emergency care may proceed with hold noted. Clean transfer requires sibling hold copied or cleared. Philippa looked at the empty cradle. The transfer did not have to leave him cold. It had to leave him named correctly. Veylan turned the transfer page. Renapel. The placement office copyist was brought from the side table, a young woman with ink-stained fingers, and a face too pale for deceit to look comfortable there. She bowed low. Your Majesty, did you copy Elian Mir from the full registry? No, my lord. I copied from the placement preparation sheet, Selrick said. That is standard. Copyists work from prepared transfer summaries to prevent nursery disorder. Who prepared the summary? Veylan asked. Rena swallowed. The placement office, under warden review. I received child name, age, body mark, from intake observation, kin closed, clean eligible, house Valdrin assignment. Sibling hold? None listed. Did you see the tag? No, my lord. The words were small. They opened a larger absence. Batch approval had not checked the child inside the batch. Copying had not touched the tag. Clean status had traveled faster than witness. House Valdrin intake receipt. Veylan ordered. The steward stepped forward, with both hands raised around a folded receipt. House Valdrin received Elian Mir at outer gate, before dawn. Escort seal intact. Child awake, no visible injury. Body mark noted as Riverwolf notch from transfer sheet. No Moonwood tag delivered. No sibling hold delivered. Philippa's throat tightened. No tag delivered? Selrick answered. Tags remain Hollowden property. Houses receive placement papers, not nursery markers. The law says the mark must be copied, Philippa said. Not that the wood must travel. Veylan did not look away from the receipt. Escort custody? Intact, the clerk said. Hollowden guard to Valdrin steward. No gap recorded. No gap does not mean no omission, Philippa said. As origin witness, Veylan said, quieter now. She inclined her head. As origin witness, the royal summary route was opened again. Veylan's signed page carried 5 clean placements. No active kin claims. No sibling holds requiring royal attention. Origin records obstructive. Noble foster pressure urgent. It did not name Elian. It did not name AR. It did not say one child had left before tag inspection, while another matching file slept in the fever room. Selric's defense remained procedural. Your Majesty, a king cannot be asked to read every cradle mark before children are placed. No, Philippa said. But he should not be asked to burn the only person who did. The room went very still. Veylan did not forgive himself. He did not forgive her either. He only turned to the clerk. Enter the omission. The sibling cross-reference had not rescued Elian Mir. It had not proved House Valdrin acted unlawfully. It had not proved Selric ordered a separation. It had only shown that Elian had a matching sibling file at Hollowden, that sibling hold was required for clean transfer, that Renapel copied from a prepared summary without tag inspection, and that Veylan's royal summary said no sibling hold existed. Then Mara Voss found the fever room file for AR. A narrow strip had been pinned across the inside cover. Placement review pending after brother's transfer clears origin dispute. The next record would have to show why a girl's future had been made dependent on erasing the brother whose hold should have protected them both. The fever room strip did not prove AR had been scheduled for unlawful placement. It only showed her file had been made dependent on clearing the brother whose hold should have protected them both. Veylan Crossmere ordered the fever room closed to everyone except nurses. That was not tenderness, though it spared the girl from being carried before nobles like evidence with a heartbeat. It was procedure turned, for once, toward restraint. Philippa Rowanell remained beside the registry table, close enough to read what Mara Voss carried back, too far from the children to comfort the one whose file had just become a royal question. Myra placed the folder beside Elian Mir's transfer sheet. Read AR without bringing her out, Veylan said. The clerk opened the file. AR, full entry. Alma Rell, approximately 3 winters, ash-brown hair, right ankle double nick, intake with EM after Southern Road sweep. Matching sibling cross-reference held pending mark inspection. Placement status. Fever. Room hold. Origin review incomplete. Selric Bale inclined his head. Origin review incomplete is precisely why she has not been placed. Philippa looked at the strip pinned inside the cover. Then why is her review pending after his transfer clears origin dispute? As origin witness, Veylan said. She breathed once. As origin witness, a sibling hold protects both files at the same time. It does not use one child's clean transfer to erase the other child's question. The clerk entered it. Not restored. Not forgiven. Still recorded through a title smaller than her work. But every entered sentence made the fire less able to finish what it had begun. Who wrote the strip? Veylan asked. The clerk turned it toward the light. Placement office notation. Hand appears to match copyist Renapel. Renapel stepped forward again. Face drained. I pinned what I was given, Your Majesty. A placement preparation note said AR remained under review until EM's transfer cleared duplicate origin uncertainty. Duplicate origin uncertainty, Philippa repeated. That is a clean way to say 2 children had marks that might belong together. Selric answered evenly. Or marks that might have been confused during intake. In crowded conditions, names, body marks, and sibling claims can be mistaken. The office must prevent one child's uncertain origin from blocking another's chance at a lawful home. A lawful home can wait for a Moonwood comparison. Winter cannot always wait, he said. The room held that because it sounded almost noble. Veylan did not accept it as answer. Sibling hold rule. Does transfer of one child clear the hold on the other? Mayra read from the red volume, where matching cross-reference appears. Hold remains until both files are inspected together, or assigned sibling. Dispute ruling separates the files with reasons entered. Sibling. Dispute ruling, Veylan said. The clerk searched Elian's transfer sheet, Alma's file, the placement ledger, and the batch approval. No sibling dispute ruling attached. Selric's brows drew together. It may be in the placement office archive. Batch files often travel without every underlying ruling. Then the batch file cannot claim clean status until the ruling is produced, Philippa said. Veylan looked at her, and this time there was no correction. Only a long, hard silence before he said, "Enter." The omission remained omission. It was not yet guilt, but it had shape now. "Prepared placement for AR?" Veylan asked. The clerk turned the next page. "Pending review for House Belthorn Nursery Foster. Contingent upon removal of sibling dispute. Preferred child. Female. Under 4 winters. No active sibling claim. No named kin dispute." Philippa lowered her eyes before anger could sharpen her voice too far. A house had not stolen a child by writing preference. A house had merely told the office what kind of child was easiest to take. "House preference creates pressure," she said. "Not proof." "Entered," Veylan said. Selric's mouth tightened, as if her restraint inconvenienced him more than accusation would have. "Royal summary," Veylan ordered. The clerk read the relevant line from the packet the king had signed. 5 delayed placements cleared or pending efficient closure. Sibling disputes resolved or administratively separable. Origin records duplicative. No exceptional holds requiring royal intervention. "Solved by what?" Veylan asked. "Read the route." There was no route attached, no sibling dispute ruling, no Moonwood comparison, no witness note from Mara, no explanation for how Elian could become clean while Alma waited for his transfer to make her clean enough later. A summary could turn 2 children into 1 problem and then call the missing half resolved. Philippa kept her hands still. The packet did not have to lie if it made the question too small to carry. Selric spoke with controlled patience. "Your Majesty, administrative separability is not cruelty. It is how orphan systems function when war leaves more children than kin." "War leaves children," Philippa said. "Offices decide whether those children keep each other." The clerk's pen scratched. Veylan's face remained severe, but the old promise from years before seemed to stand between them like a witness. Neither could bear to name. "Placement office archive," he said. "Bring the sibling dispute rulings for all 5 children in the batch. Until read. No child from this batch leaves Hollowden." Philippa's heart moved too quickly. She locked it down. A hold was not restoration. A pause was not justice. It was only a door not closing before someone checked whether a child stood on the other side. Selric bowed. "Entered under administrative protest. Delayed placement may harm children already matched to waiting houses." "Then the record will show why they were delayed," Veylan said. The fever room file had not rescued Elian. It had not accused House Belthorn or House Valdrin. It had not proved Selric wrote a false ruling. It had only shown that Almarel's sibling hold depended on Elian's transfer, that no sibling dispute ruling traveled with either file, and that Veylan's royal summary called separable what Hollowden law still required to be read together. Then the placement office archive arrived in a locked gray case. Inside were 4 sibling dispute rulings. The batch held 5 children. The missing ruling belonged to Elian Mir and Alma Rell. The next record would have to show whether their sibling hold had been forgotten, withheld, or never lawfully closed at all. The missing sibling dispute ruling did not prove Elian Mir and Alma Rell had been separated unlawfully. It only showed the file required to make that separation clean was not inside the batch that used it. The gray archive case sat on the adoption table like a locked jaw opened too late. 4 rulings lay inside, each tied with red thread and marked by child initials. LV had a closure explanation. BT had a road loss note. 2 others in the batch carried administrative separation forms for children whose suspected kin had been entered as unconfirmed before the winter count. The 5th space was empty, except for a narrow paper guide. EMAR sibling dispute ruling. See pending review. Pending. Philippa Rowanell felt the word move through the room. Pending was not closed. Pending was not separable. Pending was a door left open while a child was already carried through another. Veylan Crossmere looked at the archive guide. Read the rule for pending review. Maravos opened the red sibling volume again. Her old hands shook once, then steadied. Where sibling dispute remains pending, neither file may be marked clean transfer. Emergency care may be granted under temporary custody, with sibling hold copied into all receiving papers. Was Elian transferred under temporary custody? Veylan asked. The clerk compared the Valdrin transfer sheet, placement ledger, and escort receipt. No, Your Majesty. Clean placement eligible. Household fostering. Kin closed. No sibling hold delivered. Selric Bale spoke before the silence could name him. Temporary custody and household fostering are often used together in practical administration. The wording may have been shortened for escort efficiency. Philippa kept her gaze on the page, not on his face. Shortened wording is still a child's legal condition removed from paper. Veylan turned to her. As origin witness, she said. Entered. Not restored, not forgiven, still spoken through a narrow permission, but the permission held. Archive index, Veylan ordered. The placement office archive keeper, a bent man named Joran Vale, knelt beside the case and opened the master index. Sibling. Dispute rulings are numbered at request. Filed when signed. If not signed, they remain under review docket. EM and AR, Veylan said. Joran traced the column. Request number assigned 2 nights before transfer. Review docket opened. No final ruling filed. Who requested the ruling? The king asked. Placement office preparation desk. Copyist Rena Pell entered the request from batch review. Rena's face drained again. I requested what the batch list told me to request. I never received the signed ruling. Selric inclined his head. Then the office was following procedure. Philippa looked up. Procedure requested a ruling because the hold existed. For once, Selric did not answer quickly. The clerk entered the sentence. Withdrawal route, Veylan said. Did anyone remove the pending file? Joran turned to the back of the index. Pending review packet withdrawn for warden office assessment, morning before transfer. Returned, not marked. Attached note, separability presumed under emergency placement provision. Signed? Veylan asked. Assessment note, bears warden office stamp. Initials unclear. Selric's voice remained composed. An office stamp is not my hand. Assessment may be made by deputies. No one has called it your hand, Philippa said. That restraint cost her. It also kept the record from closing around the wrong shape too soon. Veylan studied her for a breath, then returned to the page. Does warden office assessment equal sibling? Dispute ruling? No, Joran said. It may guide placement, but it does not close the hold without signed reasons. Were signed reasons present? No, Your Majesty. The nobles had stopped whispering. House Valdrin's steward stared at the floor as if the planks might give him a cleaner receipt. Valdrin intake papers again? Veylan said. The steward stepped forward. We received no sibling hold, no temporary custody status, no pending review. We received clean household fostering. Was House Valdrin told to expect later origin correction? No, my Lord King. Philippa heard Alma coughing faintly from the fever room beyond the hall. She did not turn. If she turned, her body would do what the law still had not allowed. Go to the child, before the record did. Alma's pending placement, Veylan said. The clerk opened House Belthorn's request. Female ward under 4 winters. No active sibling claim. Nursery foster preferred before spring inheritance count. Placement review pending after brother's transfer clears origin dispute. Brother's transfer could not clear the dispute without a ruling, Philippa said. As origin witness, Veylan murmured. As origin witness, she agreed. The transfer removed the child whose file was needed to complete the comparison. The clerk wrote slowly. A pause entered the room, heavier than anger. It was the weight of an office discovering that its convenience had depended on distance. Selric's tone softened. "Your Majesty, the kingdom is full of children made by war. If every uncertain sibling mark freezes placement, Hollowden becomes a warehouse of grief. We tried to prevent that." Philippa's voice stayed low. "A hold does not warehouse grief. It prevents the house from selling certainty where the child still has a question." Veylan's eyes sharpened at selling, but she did not take it back. The word was moral, not yet legal. "Enter as witness language, not ruling," he said. "Entered," the clerk answered. The missing ruling had not proved sale. It had not proved abduction. It had not proved Selric personally closed the hold. It had only shown that a sibling dispute review existed, that it remained pending, that warden office assessment presumed separability without signed reasons, and that Elian's clean transfer used a closure no lawful ruling had carried. Then Joran lifted the paper guide from the empty slot. A second note clung beneath it, stuck by old sealing wax. "Do not attach sibling hold to Waldron copy. Clean status required for acceptance. No signature, only the same warden office stamp." The next record would have to show whether clean status had been required by law, by House Waldron, or by the office that made a child transferable before his origin was finished. The clean status note did not prove House Waldron had purchased Elian Mir. It only showed his transfer had been shaped around an acceptance condition no law had required. The unsigned paper stayed on the table with the warden office stamp dark at its corner. "Do not attach sibling hold to Waldron copy. Clean status required for acceptance." Philippa Rowanell read the line once and made herself stop. A child could be harmed by a sentence before the sentence became a crime. That was why she did not say sold. That was why she did not say stolen. The words would satisfy anger and weaken the record. Veylan Crossmere understood that silence, or perhaps he only recognized the danger in moving too fast. He did not apologize for the burned origin pages. He did not restore her authority. He turned instead to the clerk. "Acceptance condition." House Waldron's steward lifted his folded hands. "My Lord King, our house requested lawful fostering under the approved waiting list. We did not order Hollowden to omit a sibling hold." "No one has said you did," Veylan answered. "Read what your house required." The steward produced the waiting list addendum. His voice was steady until the third line. "Young male ward, under 5th winter, no active kin claim, no named wolf line dispute, clean household fostering preferred. House endowment payable upon transfer acceptance." Philippa's gaze lowered to the last phrase. "Endowment." The clerk looked to Veylan before reading the amount. 300 silver moons, designated for child maintenance, instruction, and winter clothing. Selric Bale spoke with administrative calm. "Noble endowments are customary. Hollowden cannot feed grief alone. Houses that accept children often contribute to their care. Care funds are not guilt," Philippa said. The room turned toward her, surprised again when she did not take the easiest accusation. "As origin witness," she added, "but a payment tied to transfer acceptance explains why clean status had value." Veylan's eyes sharpened. Entered. Still only witness. Still not her room, her keys, her burned ledgers. But the sentence entered. "Was the endowment payable under temporary custody?" Veylan asked. The steward hesitated. "House Waldron does not endow temporary custody at full rate because temporary wards may be reclaimed or rerouted." "Read the house rule," Veylan said. The steward opened a narrow private copy. "Full endowment requires clean household fostering, no unresolved kin claim, no sibling hold, and no pending origin dispute." Philippa felt the cold shape of it. A child with questions was expensive to protect, and less valuable to receive. Selric lifted one hand. "That is a house condition, not a warden office command." "Then why did your office note say clean status required for acceptance?" Veylan asked. "Because the office relays receiving conditions, so children are not carried to houses that will refuse them at the gate." Relaying is not the same as omitting. Selric's expression did not change. No. The single word was careful. It gave nothing, and admitted only grammar. Placement office accounts, Veylan ordered. The account ledger arrived from Selric's satchel, not the archive case. Philippa noticed that, and said nothing, until the clerk read the heading, Foster Endowment Receipts, Noble Placements, Winter Cycle. Elian Mear's line sat already entered. House Waldron pledge recorded. Status. Pending confirmation after receipt. Kin status. Closed. Sibling hold. None. Received? Veylan asked. Pledge recorded, the clerk said. Funds not yet received. Could pledge be entered before child arrival? Selric answered. Pledge is entered upon approved transfer, so Hollowden may plan supplies. Maravos's mouth tightened. Supplies for children still here? Hollowden's need is constant, Selric said. Philippa looked at the children in their cradles, then back at the accounts. If the pledge depends on clean status, then the account had reason to prefer closure before witness. As origin witness, Veylan said. As origin witness. The clerk entered it. House Waldron's steward spoke more sharply now. We received the file the warden office gave us. If there was a sibling hold, we were not told. If the transfer is wrong, my house should not bear dishonor for an omission we did not see. That, too, was record. A receiving house could desire convenience without knowing which page had been stripped to provide it. Waldron copy, Veylan ordered. The steward brought the child's packet. It contained Elian's transfer sheet, intake body mark, escort receipt, and clean fostering approval. No sibling hold, no tag inspection pending, no emergency temporary custody, no note that Al Morell's fever room file remained tied to his. Philippa looked at the empty cradle cord. The receiving copy was clean because the witness route had been removed before it left Hollowden, Selric answered. Or because the office judged the witness route irrelevant to lawful fostering. Veylan's voice cut lower. Who judged it? The clerk returned to the unsigned note. Warden office stamp. No named hand. Office stamp custody. A smaller stamp ledger was opened. The stamp had been checked out the morning before transfer by Deputy Warden Halvin Marr, returned at midday, and used again that evening by orphan warden Selric Bale for batch approval. Selric looked at the ledger and said, Deputy Marr prepares many packet notes. Is he present? Veylan asked. No, Your Majesty. Sent to House Belthorn with pending placement notices. Philippa did not move, but her pulse struck hard. Alma's pending placement. House Belthorn. The second half of the sibling hold. Veylan saw the connection at almost the same time. Recall Deputy Marr. Seal all pending placement notices. Selric bowed. Entered under protest. Notices are not transfers. No, Philippa said. They are the road before transfer. The clean status note had not proved sale. It had not proved House Waldron guilty. It had not proved Selric wrote the unsigned instruction. It had only shown that full endowment required clean status, that Waldron's copy carried no sibling hold, that the warden office stamp removed the witness route before acceptance, and that the same office had sent a deputy toward the house waiting for Al Morell. Then Mara opened the Belthorn notice copy left in the archive case. Al Morell. Origin dispute clearing. Prepare receiving room. The next record would have to show whether clearing meant lawful review, or whether Elian's missing hold had already made his sister transferable. The Belthorn notice did not prove Al Morell was being taken unlawfully. It only showed her placement had begun moving before the sibling hold that tied her to Elian Mear was lawfully cleared. The notice lay beside Elian's clean status note, smaller, newer, and more dangerous because it did not pretend to be a transfer. It was only preparation, a receiving room, a pending child. A phrase clean enough to pass through gates without alarming anyone who did not know what had been left behind. Prepare receiving room. Philippa Rowanell looked toward the fever room door and did not move. Alma remained inside with Mara's assistant. wrapped in warmed wool, coughing softly enough that only people trained by orphan houses heard it beneath court silence. Veylan Crossmere had already ordered that she not be brought out. Philippa held him to that mercy by refusing to look like she needed the child as proof. Pending placement route, Veylan said. Selric Bale inclined his head. A notice is not a transfer, Your Majesty. Houses must prepare bedding, clothing, food, and nurse space. That is ordinary care. Read ordinary care, then. The clerk opened the Belthorn notice. House Belthorn Nursery Foster. Female child under 4 winters. No active sibling claim preferred. Origin dispute clearing. Prepare receiving room. Escort window held for tomorrow dawn. Placement office contact. Deputy Warden Halvin Marr. Tomorrow dawn. Philippa folded her hands once to keep them from becoming fists. Origin dispute clearing, Veylan said. Not cleared. The clerk checked the wording again. Clearing, Selric answered. Administrative language. It indicates the office expected resolution before transfer. By what route? Veylan asked. There was no route attached. The absence had become familiar now, but familiarity did not make it smaller. Philippa kept her voice low. A notice can prepare a house to receive a child before the record is ready, but it cannot make the record ready. As origin witness, Veylan said. As origin witness. Entered. Not restored. Still named by the narrower office. Still speaking only where the torn papers permitted her. But every entry kept Alma's fever room door from becoming another clean line. Deputy Marr, Veylan said. Recall status. A guard returned from the outer yard, ash on his cloak. Deputy Warden Marr was stopped at the south gate, before leaving Hollowden ground. He carried placement notices for House Belthorn, and 2 other houses. No children with him. No children with him was relief. Not innocence. Bring the notices, Veylan ordered. Selric's expression did not change, though his scent sharpened beneath the smoke. Deputy Marr manages notice traffic. That should not be made suspicious by timing. Timing is why records exist, Philippa said. Veylan looked at her, but did not rebuke her. The notice packet was opened under witness. 3 houses, 3 pending placements. Each used the same phrase, origin dispute clearing. Each listed no active sibling claim preferred, no named kin dispute preferred, clean transfer expected after office review. The clerk read the children's registry lines beside them. 1 had an unresolved winter road search. 1 had a body mark pending nurse confirmation. Alma had a sibling hold. Not one notice carried the unresolved status forward. Selric spoke carefully. Receiving houses are not required to see every internal uncertainty before a formal transfer. Notices are preparatory. Then they should not use clean preferences to prepare rooms for children whose records are not clean, Philippa said. House Belthorn's steward bowed from the back of the hall. My Lord King, our house has not received the child. We were told only that a nursery placement might clear. We did not ask Hollowden to separate siblings. No one has named your house guilty, Veylan said. Philippa added, a house can create pressure without seeing which child it presses against. The steward accepted that with a grimace, because it was fairer than accusation and harder to dismiss. Deputy Marr's custody ledger, Veylan ordered. The ledger showed Halvin Marr had checked out the warden office stamp the previous morning, carried notice packets to the seal desk, and returned for escort window forms after Elian's transfer had left before dawn. He had not signed the sibling dispute ruling, because no ruling existed. He had signed routing acknowledgments for pending notices using batch review numbers. Batch review numbers again, Veylan said. The clerk compared them, Elian's transfer, Alma's notice, and the other pending notices all carried the same batch number that Selric's packet had described as 5 delayed placements cleared or pending efficient closure. Efficient closure. The phrase sounded less like mercy each time it returned. Philippa looked at the burned hearth. The batch number carried children farther than their marks did. Veylan's jaw tightened. Enter it. Selric's patience thinned by a single thread. Your Majesty, without batch administration, orphan placements collapse. Houses withdraw. Children age out of preference. Winter rations fail. The warden office balances origin, survival, and future. Balance does not permit you to omit the weight, Veylan said. It was not apology. It was not trust in Philippa. It was a king beginning to understand what his summary had made light enough to burn. Freeze all pending notices from this batch, he ordered. No escort window. No transfer. No receiving preparation beyond ordinary food and bedding until tag registry, kin search closure, and sibling hold status are copied into each royal file. Selric bowed. Entered under protest. A freeze may harm placement prospects. Philippa did not thank Veylan. Gratitude could make a pause look like justice. The children were not born to satisfy prospects, she said. The clerk's pen stopped for half a breath, then moved. The Belthorn notice had not proved Almorel was being removed. It had not proved Deputy Marr falsified a ruling. It had not proved Selric ordered a sibling hold omitted. It had only shown that pending placement notices used clean preferences before unresolved origin marks were copied, that batch numbers moved children through houses faster than tag inspection, and that Veylan's summary carried efficient closure without the route that made closure lawful. Then the guard placed Deputy Marr's seal pouch on the table. Inside, beneath the notice copies, lay a folded strip from the Royal Nursery Archive. Crossmere line mark. Lost female infant. Left ankle double nick. Presumed dead after border raid. The next record would have to show why a mark from the Alpha King's own bloodline was traveling inside an orphan placement pouch. The Crossmere archive strip did not prove Almorel belonged to the Alpha King's bloodline. It only showed a royal kin mark was traveling inside a placement pouch that should have carried orphan notices, not nursery secrets. The folded strip remained on the table beneath Deputy Marr's seal pouch. No one reached for it at first. Even Selric Bale, who had answered every ledger as if procedure could keep a room obedient, held his silence. A royal bloodline mark was not the same as a child. A lost infant note was not a living claim. Yet every person in Hollowden Orphan House understood that a mark from the Alpha King's own nursery archive had no ordinary reason to sit among pending foster papers. Veylan Crossmere stared at the words until the hearth crackled behind him. Royal Nursery Archive Route, he said. His voice did not break. That made Philippa Rowanell more wary, not less. A grieving king could destroy evidence by reaching for it too quickly. A guilty king could bury it with command. Veylan did neither. He pointed to the clerk. Read under witness. The clerk unfolded the strip. Crossmere line mark. Lost female infant. Left ankle double nick. Presumed dead after border raid. Archive cross-reference. Nursery evacuation roll. Western Bloodline Annex, sealed by Regency Office. A noblewoman made the smallest sound, then swallowed it. Philippa looked toward the fever room door and forced herself not to look through it. Almorel slept there under nurse watch, not under court inspection. Her file said right ankle double nick. The strip said left. Difference mattered. So did copying error. So did frightened witnesses marking a child in smoke and blood. Do not bring Alma out, Veylan said. The order cut through the room. That was not apology. It was not restoration. It was protection of procedure before the child became spectacle. Compare records only, he said. File, intake, witness, tag registry, nursery archive. No body inspection unless the nurse's record requires it. Mara Voss opened Alma's file again. A.R. right ankle double nick, ash brown hair, intake with E.M. after Southern Road sweep, sibling hold pending. Original intake hand? Veylan asked. Mine, Mara said. Copied from first wash, before fever swelling faded. I wrote right ankle. Selric's voice returned carefully. Then the marks differ. Yes, Philippa said. They differ. Difference is not dismissal until the original witness root is read. Veylan looked at her. As origin witness, she added. Entered. Still not restored. Still not allowed to command the archive. But the room had begun to wait for her distinctions. Before it moved. Nursery evacuation roll, Veylan ordered. The royal archive runner was sent to the carriage vault, where sealed royal copies traveled with the king. While they waited, Deputy Marr stood guarded beside the wall, pale and sweating through his collar. Veylan turned to him. Why did you carry a royal nursery strip? Marr bowed so low his shoulders shook. It was attached to a notice route, my lord. I was instructed to keep it with the Belthorn packet until review. Who instructed you? Marr's eyes flickered towards Selric, then away. Warden office routing desk, Selric answered before accusation formed. Many old archive slips are attached for exclusion, not claim. If a child's mark resembles noble or royal loss records, placement must ensure no false claim is raised later. Exclusion review, Philippa said. Yes, Selric said. To protect the child from dangerous politics. To protect the placement from later dispute, she answered. Veylan's jaw tightened. Both may be true. Read the root. The royal runner returned with a sealed black folder. Veylan broke the wax himself, but did not read privately. He placed the page before the clerk. Nursery evacuation roll. The clerk read, Female infant, Arlena Crossmere, daughter of Prince Thorin Crossmere and Lady Modril Vale, lost during Western Border raid. Body not recovered. Mark. Left ankle double nick. Secondary mark. Crescent vein beneath right heel, recorded by wet nurse. Status. Presumed dead after 7th day. No living search continuation after Regency closure. The room went very still around the word daughter. Prince Thorin had been Veylan's elder brother, killed in the same raids that filled Holodin's cradles. A child of Thorin's blood would be Veylan's niece, but a dead infant on an evacuation roll was not Alma Rell. Not yet. Regency closure, Veylan said. Who closed the search? The clerk read. Regency office under Lord Protector Sarn Crossmere. Border deaths consolidated. Search terminated due to enemy fire. No cradle recovery. Selric lifted his chin slightly. That closure predates my wardenship. No one has said otherwise, Philippa said. She hated the fairness of that sentence. It kept the truth alive by not making it convenient. Alma's tag, Veylan said. Registry only. No child. Mara brought the tag from the fever room rail, wrapped in cloth. Philippa did not touch it. The clerk held it beneath hearthlight. The Moonwood witness groove showed AR, right ankle double nick, sibling cross-reference to EM, kin status pending. Then Mara turned the tag, and a second shallow groove appeared on the underside, almost worn smooth by years of oil. Crescent heel mark, the clerk whispered. Unconfirmed. Not copied into placement ledger. Philippa closed her eyes for one breath. Not proof of royal blood. A matching secondary mark in a record root. Why not copied? Veylan asked. Mara's face crumpled. Because it was faint at intake. I marked it for later wash inspection. Fever came. Then the batch list moved. Selric said softly, A faint mark cannot hold a placement forever. No, Philippa said. But a faint mark tied to a royal lost child record should hold long enough to be compared. The clerk entered it. The royal nursery strip had not proved Alma Rell was Arlena Crossmere. It had not proved Selric knew her bloodline. It had not proved Deputy Marr carried the strip to hide her. It had only shown that a Crossmere lost infant record, a matching secondary heel mark, and Alma's sibling hold were all moving through placement notices without being copied into Veylan's royal summary. Then the wet nurse's sealed line at the bottom of the nursery roll was read. If found alive, child bears moonfleck in left eye under candlelight. From the fever room, Alma coughed and began to cry. The next record would have to decide whether the Alpha King's own house had once closed a child as dead, and whether Holodin was now trying to place her before anyone looked into her eyes. The Moonfleck note did not prove Alma Rell was Arlena Crossmere. It only made the court read a child's body mark before any house could turn her into a clean placement. Veylan Crossmere lifted one hand before anyone moved toward the fever room. "No child comes out," he said. The command settled harder than a shout. Nobles who had leaned forward drew back. Guards stilled. Even Selric Bale lowered his eyes, though his face remained trained into lawful concern. Philippa Rowanell felt the force of the order in her bones, because it did what protection should do. It kept Alma a child, before it made her evidence. "Mara Voss," Veylan said. "You will inspect only what your nursing duty already permits. 1 female guard, 1 candle, no court audience." Mara bowed and went through the fever room door. Philippa did not follow. Her whole body wanted to. Instead, she stood beside the registry table, where the child's rights were still being fought in ink. If she crossed that room without authority, Selric would turn care into interference one last time. The old nurse returned with wet eyes and steady hands. "Left eye shows moon. Fleck under candlelight. Right ankle double nick. Recorded at intake. Crescent heel mark present. Faint, but visible. I entered it for later inspection and failed to complete the copy before fever." Veylan's face did not change. That was mercy to the record. A king's shock could make a courtroom forget evidence and remember only blood. "Enter Mara Voss's witness," he said. "Read comparison." The clerk placed 4 records together. Royal nursery roll for Arlena Crossmere, Alma's tag registry, Alma's fever file, and Deputy Marr's placement pouch strip. The names did not match. The initials did not match. But the double nick, crescent heel mark, Moonfleck note, Southern Road intake, and Regency closure route aligned enough to require royal kin review before any placement. Philippa spoke carefully. "That proves review required, not identity completed." Veylan looked at her, as though the distinction cost him more than a cry would have. "Entered," Selric breathed out. "Then the proper action is sealed royal review. Holodin placement can remain paused without public scandal." "No," Veylan said. "The proper action is to read how a child marked for royal review entered a clean placement batch." The placement office route was opened from first page to last. Renapel had copied from prepared summaries. Deputy Marr had carried notices with hidden archive strips. The warden office stamp had removed sibling holds from receiving copies. Selric's packet had classified origin records as private obstruction, kin searches as stale or closed, sibling disputes as separable, and clean placements as urgent. His seal sat on the royal summary that Veylan had signed before the fire. Selric did not confess. He did not need to. His defense remained efficiency, but every efficient sentence had carried a child away from an unfinished name. Then Jorn Vale opened the account appendix no one had asked for, until Philippa saw the matching batch numbers. "Read endowment receipts against transfers," she said. Veylan did not correct her title this time. The clerk read, "House Faldron pledge for Elian Mere. House Belthorn pledge pending for Alma Rell. 3 other noble contributions tied to clean status. Maintenance endowments payable only after no active kin claim, no sibling hold, and no origin dispute." A second column carried warden office handling fees. The room went cold. "Handling fees are administrative," Selric said. "Paid by whom?" Veylan asked. The clerk answered softly, "Receiving houses. Not sale proved by 1 line. A payment route tied to clean status and office handling. Enough for tribunal, enough to seize the ledgers before morning." Veylan turned to the guards. "Orphan warden Selric Bale is suspended from Holodin authority. Deputy Marr is held for record examination. Placement office accounts, closure logs, and all noble endowment receipts are sealed. No child leaves Hollowden, any foster house, or any noble nursery until tag registry, origin file, kin search status, and sibling hold are copied into royal custody. Selric's composure cracked only at the edges. You will freeze an entire orphan system over marks and sentiment? No, Veylan said. Over records your office made smaller than the children they described. The Valdrin steward bowed hard enough to tremble. We will return Elian under temporary custody review. Not return, Philippa said, before she could stop herself. Produce him for sibling. Hold correction. He is not property moving back across a table. Veylan looked at the clerk. Enter her wording. The steward accepted it. By dusk, Elian was brought back under guard, fed, tired, and confused, but unhurt, according to the nurse's inspection. He was not paraded. Mara carried Alma's blanket to the quiet room beside the registry, and the two siblings were placed within sight of each other only after the child physician approved it. Alma reached first. Elian stared, then gripped the edge of her blanket, as if some part of him remembered what paperwork had tried to outgrow. No one called it reunion on the record yet. Philippa called it protected proximity, pending lawful origin review. At moonrise, Veylan stood before nurses, children old enough to hear, nobles, wardens, clerks, and the ashes of the burned pages. I allowed origin records to burn before birth names, body marks, kin search lines, and sibling holds were copied into royal custody. I accepted clean placement before I asked what had been cleaned away. He turned to Philippa. Philippa Rowanell is restored as Royal Origin Recorder of Hollowden. No adoption, foster service, noble wardship, or royal placement may proceed without her office's signed origin route. Origin is lawful child identity. It is not obstruction. He placed the registry keys beside her ink-stained hand. She took them because the children needed the law to see her hand, not because his regret had earned peace. Only after the hall emptied did Veylan stand at the edge of the nursery, one careful step away. I promised you no child would disappear. You did, she said, and I signed the fire. Yes, his throat moved. I will spend my reign making that signature impossible to repeat. Philippa looked at the cradles, at the moonwood tags resting in blue cord, at names no longer left to mercy. Then begin by never asking a child to become clean enough for power to love. Veylan bowed his head. In the quiet, the Moon Cradle Tags did not speak. They did not need to. Their grooves had been copied into law.